Welcome to Creating the Future, an Ullman Group presentation. We're spotlighting the visionaries who are driving progress and sparking positive change in Dayton and beyond. Today we're joined by Amanda DeLotelle, a passionate community leader who rallied a group of local chefs to find a creative solution to food insecurity during the COVID pandemic. That effort would ultimately become Miami Valley Meals, a growing force today that continues to feed the hungry in our region. We're creating the future. With Amanda DeLotelle. And the future starts now.
Hello, and welcome to Creating the Future. I'm Evelyn Ritzy.
I'm David Bowman.
And today we're joined by Amanda DeLotelle, who is the co-founder and executive director of Miami Valley Meals.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Now celebrating its fourth anniversary, Miami Valley Meals is a local nonprofit dedicated to serving those who serve the hungry by transforming donated food into nutritious, chef-prepared meals. We're thrilled to have Amanda on the podcast today to hear about how she's using creativity to collaborate in the Dayton community and propel the Miami Valley Meals mission forward. So let's get started.
Great.
Amanda, this podcast is all about creativity, and especially in the Dayton region. And so we'd love to know a little bit about your background because you have a creative background that some people might not necessarily know about. So could you tell us about that?
Absolutely. So that's very true. Back in the day, I was a soccer player at one point, and I wanted to play soccer in college. So did some tours of campuses, and Ball State University just blew my mind with how gorgeous the campus was, and it was a Division I soccer program. So that's actually how I ended up there. Now, they did also have this wonderful telecommunications program, video production. David Letterman went there.
Absolutely.
So it was just a great opportunity to go be a part of it. And it was the inaugural women's soccer team at Ball State as well. Yes. So it was exciting. I made a lot of great friends there. I went through that program and then stayed for my master's in their first ever digital storytelling master's. Which it's called something else now, the Media Masters, I believe. So stayed for that. And then along the way, I was in the hospitality industry. I worked at the root beer stand for like 12 years.
Nice.
Yes. No roller skates. Everybody thinks that, but no, you don't want that. There'd be chili everywhere. So I worked there, and along the way, after school, I was kind of just bouncing around in my 20s. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to be when I grew up. Traveled a bit to Brazil a couple of times. I had exchange students growing up, so I could stay with them. And then when I came back, I found some roles in hospitality again. Media, I just wasn't finding the right fit, or couldn't make the right connection there, but I kept finding great jobs in hospitality. So I worked at a country club, and then eventually I went to the Schuster, City Lights at the Schuster.
Yeah.
I stayed there for 7 years, absolutely loved it, did events, and by the end, I was the food and beverage director. Unfortunately, the City Lights shut down, so we all kind of went our separate ways. And that led me to, that was in January of 2020, and we all went our separate ways, found new jobs, and then here comes the pandemic.
Pandemic?
Yes, that.
I vaguely remember that.
What a wild life that was. So.
And is the pandemic then how Miami Valley Meals came to be?
Absolutely. So in March of 2020, one of my former colleagues, Chef Matt D'Angulo, he was the executive chef at City Lights. He reached out to say, basically, like, Amanda, all of our friends went and got new jobs in the hospitality and culinary roles, and the pandemic's coming, everything's going to shut down. And beyond that, this is going to be so devastating for our community, for people experiencing food insecurity. Maybe we can help. And I said, maybe you're right. So Bill Evans, who's a local food security champion, connected us to the House of Bread to have a meeting and just see how we might help. So that's kind of how it all started. And the day, I think it was the day after that meeting, Matt and I were both furloughed from our respective jobs. That was when everything shut down, all the restaurants, as you recall. And so we were able to call some buddies because nobody was working and get in there like the next day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. So that was kind of, I think, how we were able to be so effective and impactful right away is because it was all of our pals that we worked with for years. We already trusted each other. We knew each other's strengths and weaknesses, so we could jump right in and be effective. So we were there at House of Bread for a little bit, supporting their staff. And then about a week later, St. Vincent de Paul reached out, and they were, having to put people in hotels all over the city, and it was just a lot to manage all those meals. So we called some more buddies and said, hey, do you want to help us? We're trying to provide meals and for people that don't have food. And they said, yeah. And we had 2 separate teams then at St. Vincent and House of Bread. After that, there was a lot of different organizations, nonprofits trying to work together to figure out like what's happening, what are we going to do? And they stepped in right away to support us and give us some helpful ideas of how to move forward, just support in general, and said, keep going. And the Miami Valley Community Action Partnership was getting a great deal of CARES money, block grant money, and they said, can you do this on a bigger scale? And we said, we will try our best. And that's how it all kind of got rolling. It's been, we've had just really dedicated and passionate folks that wanted to help the city from all angles. People were coming and organizations coming to support and uplift what we were doing. So that's kind of how it started. We didn't have a kitchen at first, so we were at Life Enrichment Center in East Dayton.
Okay.
It's no longer there, but we were there for about 3 months during the pandemic because their culinary program was shut down for a bit. So we were able to work out of there. And when we were trying to figure out like how do you get meals to folks, we looked around and saw all those supporting organizations and said, let's not reinvent the wheel, let's go through those existing pathways, and then they'll be able to connect their services as well. When you're in poverty, food insecurity is likely not your only issue or barrier. So these other organizations will be able to provide that. And a thing in the pandemic I didn't even think about, though, some of these folks weren't leaving their homes at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So this was their only point of connection in the day was to get these meals. So it was really powerful, and just I'm so glad that we were able to get all that support and have such a special team that showed up every day and made it happen.
It's just it's so powerful, and I've heard you say before, like, food is love, and that's what it is, like caring for the community. And Miami Valley Meals has evolved a lot since then, just done more and more and more. And can you talk about the creativity involved in taking donated food items, turning them into meals that are, not just an entree, it's an entree, it's got all of the necessary nutrients and like even dessert sometimes too. Can you talk about the creativity involved in the kitchen with your chefs?
Absolutely. I may be biased, but I think I got the best chefs in the biz. They are so caring and creative in everything they do. Some of them have experienced food insecurity themselves, or worked in other places that they've helped other folks, so they know what's needed. And they also, it's back to that dignity piece and that love piece, giving something that we would want to give to our families, that we would want to eat. So we try to make a really complete little package. It's we have both individual and half pans, but there's typically a protein, starch, vegetable, and a dessert, because dessert.
Gotta have dessert, right?
Yes, we've got to. So we always put that in there. But the chefs are my chefs have they were from the for-profit industry. So we felt like from early on, like that same level of care and dignity that you give to somebody in a restaurant, why doesn't everybody deserve that? So we try to bring a lot of those skills and talents while also thinking about who's eating this and what would fill them up and taste good. So, but they are wild creative. I'm actually the worst chef at Miami Valley Meals. That's okay. I'll do the paperwork. So they just bring so much talent from their former jobs. Laura has this Cajun Creole background. Angie's vegan. She makes these beautiful vegan dishes. You will never miss the meat. And Chef Jaleesa brings from Sueño, Patricio's from Ecuador. It's like this melding of the minds. And there's not that typical, there's not too many chefs in the kitchen there. They're really great at working together and brainstorming to make something complete and satisfying, because everybody deserves a good meal.
What's the most unique or sort of like a favorite meal that you saw someone make where you're like, how did you come up with that out of, because a lot of, what you get is like donated food, right? So you don't know what's coming.
Absolutely. It is wild when we get the different pallets of food and we don't know what's coming. So they've done some wildly creative things, but one of the ones that sticks out in my mind is unique. We had like this whole pallet of like sweet tea, and then we had pork butt. So together they became one, and they marinated that overnight, and it turned out to be a beautiful dish, like really filling and just tasty. Angie's always doing some creative vegetarian or vegan dish. Chef Marilyn makes these beautiful baked goods out of things you wouldn't necessarily think, but she's kind of a wizard with that. And then Laura's dumplings. She makes homemade chicken and dumplings, are out of this world. Poppy's always coming up with the flavor, really flavorful things. We have to be mindful of spice, but we do they do so many creative things. I just think they're all superstars.
Now, do you gravitate towards, in my mind, when I think of cooking, right, you've got kind of on one end of the spectrum a baker, right, and it's precision, it's very scientific, and then you've got like I'm a cook on the other, right, which is more like, here's what I got, like I'm just gonna start throwing it together and taste it. Nope, add this, and you kind of make it up as you go. I'm not, unsurprisingly, I am that kind of person in the kitchen.
So they're doing they have to have precision with the baking, of course. Yeah. But some of it is absolutely a trial by error. Yeah. Especially at the beginning when we were working out desserts. You had to make them. We had to test them in the microwave, and a couple of them maybe caught on fire. But we had to figure out all those recipes and how to cook it, because the majority of our meals are frozen. So we have to think about that, like how is this going to reheat? But we always want to be conscious of how the person who's getting the meal is going to like it. So we do put a little QR survey right on the meal. We print all of our ingredients on the packaging back to that dignity piece. We want people to know what they're eating, and there is a QR code for a survey there, so they can give us honest feedback. Granted, if you don't like broccoli casserole, you're not going to like mine or Evelyn's, but so they just do wonderful things in there.
They do, and so do you. You're so humble, such a servant leader, but one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on the podcast was to talk about the ways that you are intentionally seeking those opportunities to collaborate with folks in the community, whether it's the nonprofits that you partner with or businesses and other organizations. And you've just been so intentional about it. It's something I really admire about you. But can you talk about some of those collaborations and why it means a lot to you to collaborate?
Absolutely. And thank you. That's very kind of you to say. It's easier to do things like this when you have a great team right next to you. So, but the collaborations that's what we were built on. There were so many organizations that took time out of their day, out of their focus to say, hey, Miami Valley Meals, we can help you with this, or have you thought about this, or make sure you watch out for this. It was incredible, all of these nonprofits that came around to like support and lift us up. So the nonprofit world, in our model is nonprofits coming and picking up from us. So we have about 50 active nonprofits. Without them, we're not reaching the people. They know their neighborhoods and communities better than we do. They know where the need is, and they know how they can connect their other services. So that is just built into the model for the most impact, for sure. Beyond that, I think when you're in the nonprofit world, I feel like you're there to be a helper, and you're there because you care about people. So other nonprofits, they're in it for the same thing, right? But sometimes folks outside of the nonprofit world might not know what the struggles are, what the barriers are, what the need is. So it's very intentional to reach out outside of our, not bubble, but outside of our nonprofits ecosystem, and reach out to others so they can help us spread the word, help us shine light on the issues that many people are facing, and really figure out how to help everybody. So that has been a very intentional. The universities, we work with Sinclair, UD, Wright State, the Modern now. Yeah. The Ohio State University we work with now. So it's very important to me that we're engaging youth. You know, you talk about the brain drain when so many students after school leave Dayton. Maybe they're part of how we keep them is to get them ingrained into our culture and to our community, to see what's going on so they care and they want to stay, because we want these great minds to stay with us. So that was very intentional to keep people engaged with our community.
Yeah, and I know it's obvious how passionate you are about the cause and the work. I know also you are very passionate about developing people, right? Helping them find their passion, or maybe it's that combination of skill set and passion, and then really sort of lighting that fire and saying, hey, how do we take that and use it to help further our mission, but also to help you grow and develop. Talk about that. And does that come from your sports background? Does it come from, where does that come from, and why is it such a big deal to you?
Maybe it's because I was an only child growing up, that I always sought out friendships and was always relatively outgoing and joining teams and just interested in a lot of different things. So that probably comes from there, but I think it's on my LinkedIn. I'm a Dayton hype woman, and I'm all about building teams. I think there's nothing greater than helping somebody realize how great they are. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the ones that I might accidentally cry, so I can't talk too much about it, but I love it. I love to build up others so they can be more effective and for themselves and for the community, the greater good.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things too, when you think of, creativity, there's sort of this notion of the lone genius toiling, with these big ideas. But my experience with creativity is always we is better than me, right? And so when you foster that dynamic of, you're helping people develop their skills, but also building that sense of team. So it's their skills are lifting up the skills of everyone, and the whole is greater than the sum parts, right? Which is, when that happens, it's just magic, right?
Absolutely. Magic is the word. And I see it in the kitchen all the time when everybody's just vibing and together. It's something so special. And you're absolutely right. Some people need a little more care and support than others, and some are just already there and shining. But part of that is helping those that are shining to help those that need a little support too. We all need support in different ways. So it is a magical thing when you have the right team in place and when you invite others to join that special space and that special mission. So.
Inviting others, that's a good segue into my next question, which was going to be about, you care about learning about different cultures, and bringing that into cuisine is a really interesting way that you've grown Miami Valley Meals and evolved what you do. Can you talk a little bit about inviting others into the kitchen to share their culture, the foods that they love to make, and how that might help Miami Valley Meals better serve Dayton's diverse population.
Absolutely. So when you talk about comfort food to me might be totally different than to somebody that maybe is a refugee from a different country, or an immigrant from a different country. So last year we really put some emphasis on bringing in some international cuisine, and how we did that is we invited some different chefs. They might have been home chefs or professional chefs from different backgrounds. We had Chef Gabby in from Afro Meals. She was one of our first guest chefs to come in, and she worked with Welcome Dayton to figure out who do we have living here and what kind of food would they like. Mm-hmm. So it was really, again, those intentional collaborations, because we want to be comfort to as many people as we can. Now, it's a little trickier because we don't. In 2023, 90% of the food and the meals was either rescued or donated. So we would have to buy in different spices and things. But there's a version of rice and beans across the universe, maybe, dare I say the universe, at least across the world. So we wanted to bring that in. Not only was it great to learn those new styles of cooking, but it was a great team building exercise. I took care of pickups that day, so Nick, our partner person that gets all the pickups ready, so he could participate too. We had Fatima from the Ahiska Turkish community come in. She taught us some things. Sang-yoon taught us some Korean stuff. So it was just such a cool experience. And, I hope to grow that program eventually so we can get a little bit more into that. But I think you got to start the conversation, and you got to start gathering those skills so you can move forward and do something extra special.
Yeah. Well, I know the Ullman Group, we were introduced to Miami Valley Meals as part of a volunteer project. It was around Thanksgiving. And we all came in and scooped and plated and did all kinds of really cool, fun stuff. And we left, we were just blown away, and all of us were like, oh my gosh, like what a great place. Can you talk about the importance of volunteers to Miami Valley Meals, and if someone were to be interested in volunteering, what might they be doing?
Absolutely. So we have volunteers most days. We have shorter shifts during the week, for the most part, that you can sign up online through our website, miamivalleymeals.org, and that'll send you through Point is a system that we use. We have shorter shifts, about 2 hours, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, because we understand people are busy, but they still want to give back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We even have an incoming board member, Leadership Dayton Match, for next year, Brandon. He couldn't fit into either of those groups, so he comes once a week on his lunch break, and it's awesome. So we're going to work with you to figure out what fits your schedule best, because, again, people want to give back, but they might not fit the exact time slots. We also take groups. We'd love to have groups in. Groups are pretty much anybody over 6, or on the weekends we might occasionally open a Saturday for over 8 people. We do have a smaller kitchen, so like 15 is kind of our max if we have some notice. But those volunteers are so important to our mission, to helping us get ahead. There's lots of scooping, yes, but if you are handy with a knife, then we'll have you help us prep some things. Sometimes there's like cleaning that we need help with, or we had about 5 groups from Carroll High School come the other week, and they moved our whole garden, our herb garden. Even made it fancier. There's like a curve in it and everything. So we have all kinds of different jobs. We're also looking to see what volunteers are interested in doing beyond the kitchen. Sometimes that's a little intimidating for folks. So if they want to be on a committee, like for Dyson Dayton, they could do that, or one of our other committees.
Yeah.
Ooh. I know you mentioned an herb garden. Mm-hmm. You use some of your fresh herbs in your meals? Absolutely.
That's a thing that we don't get donated too often. So we tried to grow our own right there. And then we work with the food bank to compost some of our things. The food bank's given us some great produce. Mission of Mary, UD Sustainability started giving us produce. So we have all these wonderful partners that are making sure we can keep doing what we're doing.
I think the sustainability aspect is such a neat and unique part of your model too, is, taking things that, are just on the verge of still being usable and they need to be used right now. So
there's like 40% of food goes to waste every year. And a lot of that is just because it's surplus or because of a menu change or for a variety of reasons. We want it. Bring it on over.
Yeah.
So
it's so neat.
We'll elevate those ingredients and make a complete meal.
I think something so fascinating about what you do and the space you occupy, right, is it's restaurant/food service, which I think like that should be one of those things that everyone has an experience with, right? It's whether you're back of house, front of house, like it is an exercise in typically high pressure, problem solving, being creative, working as a team. Like there's just so much you learn from that. You combine that with the Miami Valley Meals sort of mission and model, which is, bigger problem solving, not like, hey, is somebody going to like the taste of the turkey, but like, how do we feed people? Creativity with like, well, what do we have to work with today? So talk about like how that restaurant experience and food service experience, and I mean, and sports is kind of a similar thing where it's soccer, right? So don't know where the ball's going to go. There's 10 other people sharing the field with me, all have different skills and do different things. And if we work the right way, we will win or have a good time losing. But talk about like how those things inform your creative process and how that's important to what you do.
I think, creativity comes from a couple different spaces. It can come out of absolute necessity. We have to address this problem right now and get it done. But it also comes from, I think it can come from being in a safe space where you can freely be amongst people that believe in you too. And that's the culture that we've tried to create at Miami Valley Meals. When you know that I've got your back, you've got mine, you have that that safety in thinking big and thinking creatively. Being creatively. Sorry. So I and then the other is necessity, So those two things kind of come together for us. So we're able to be amongst a team that trusts each other. Also, I think since we came from like the restaurant business, we're all scrappy hospitality and culinary folk. You just get it done. We literally had a wooden slide that was how we got food up and down in a basket. Until recently, thank you Montgomery County Solid Waste for our new conveyor. But you just make it happen. And I think the thing that pushes that even further is the drive to do something impactful and for the greater good. And that's what my team, they want to make people's lives better, and they want to do it through food because that's their love language.
Love it. That's absolutely fantastic.
You're doing such a great job at that too. I feel inspired to smile more today.
Creating the future.
Creating the future.
Thanks for listening. Creating the Future is a presentation of Ullman Group, a full-service advertising and marketing agency helping our clients create the future for over 75 years. Executive producers Evelyn Ritzy and David Bowman. Director and video editor Jason Carter. Audio editors Jim Hosfeld and John Brooks. Graphic and motion design Megan Murphy and Cody Rain. To hear and view other episodes and learn more about the Ullman Group, visit ullmangroup.com/podcast.